learning. This is it actually sort of stole all my lines, by the way, and I thought that I'll share with you. But in the kind of change that is taking place in the world, one thing is certain: the only constant right now is change. You know, the economic center of the world is shifting from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific and beyond. It's also clear the world order in that sense is changing. I've just come from 2 or 3 very interesting visits. I came yesterday from Pakistan. The week before that I was in Europe, and the week before that I was at Davos. So each one has a very interesting bearing on how people perceive this change that is taking place in the world. In Pakistan, we were discussing how it is possible to take away the ill effect of maintaining a bad relationship with the neighbor. Too much time, effort, money, resources being spent on maintaining a bad relationship. And frankly, it benefits nobody. Well, it maybe does benefit somebody, because we have a huge defense budget in India. Pakistan has a massive defense budget. But other than that, there is no benefit to the nation. And these are countries not just with large population, but as we increasingly keep saying, there is a large section of the population which is the bulge bracket in the middle, and an even larger section of the population which is sitting at the bottom. Extreme poverty, challenges in education and healthcare. So for us, this bottom of the pyramid is not just a fancy term. We have to address this for 2 different reasons. One, for a defensive reason, because if you don't do it, you potentially stand to see a revolution. A year before any revolution took place, French, Chinese, Russian, the whole host of the history tells you, you could never figure out there's going to be a revolution. People are getting upset. They're frustrated. Today in India, we have information available for everybody to see what's going on. The progress that we are making as a nation. The prosperity that you see at the top of this very same pyramid that you talk about. India is producing more billionaires than most any nation in the world today. Year on year, every year. And that's visible too. It's reported. With the kind of media we have, the number of channels we have, newspapers, magazines, and these go to all areas, by the way, including rural areas. You can see what's happening. And I also think I'm just trying to link 2 or 3 different, I'm trying to talk of 2 or 3 different things. I'll try and, hopefully if I get time in 10 minutes, I'll try and link them. Otherwise I'll leave you to figure out what the connection is. If you saw a little while ago, when Anna Hazare started this movement to focus on corruption, I don't think there were millions of people who were Anna Hazare followers, by the way. These are individuals who were angry and upset at the lot that they have in their lives. You know, the road outside my house is broken, my kid did not get admission in school, or a whole host of issues. I go and pay somebody off to buy a train ticket. Why am I being punished? What have I done wrong? So I think this collective frustration, and the timing was such, the trigger worked wonderfully, and the social media and the electronic media that we have available allows people to communicate today at a lightning speed. This was never possible. So, as I said, one is for a defensive reason we need to do it, but on the flip side, it is an absolutely wonderful reason. We have the potential to build the world's largest growth market. Just look at our numbers. 68% of India lives in the rural areas. You all know India's population. 54% of India depends on agriculture as a primary source of income. Agriculture contributes much less than it should in our GDP. In the larger scheme of things, it's services, manufacturing, and then agriculture, and that's very small. This is not sustainable. You cannot have such a large number of people depending on agriculture when the output and income from agriculture is so low. We have to make some change. And what kind of change can we make? One, we need to make agriculture more productive. Agri Plus, as I've been talking about this for a while now, both amongst friends in industry and government, India has the highest value potential in India, lies in Agri Plus. if we can get our act together. We are, by the way, the world's largest milk producer, second largest producer of vegetables, second largest producer of fruits, and I'm sure you're all aware of this, large producers of wheat and rice. But our value addition post that, our post-harvest, is a complete disaster. We do, and I'm a little wary when Simon is sitting here to give you numbers on Agri Plus, because we have a big expert. You will listen to him in the next session. We do value addition only 6% on the agri produce. Small country like Thailand does 62%. There are others who do even more. Just imagine what you could do if you only doubled the yield that you have today. And by the way, doubling is not difficult. It may seem like an enormous number today. We have not really done much work on inducting management or the right kind of capital or the regulatory environment for agriculture. If we can do that, we can completely change the lives of all people who are working either directly or indirectly with agriculture. Thank you. We attempted a few years ago to set up something called the Rural Business Hubs Council. And I was fortunate to co-chair this with one of the cabinet ministers at that time in India. The idea was try and build businesses in the rural parts of India which are based on the current existing skills and strengths of those regions. This could be 3 different streams. Could be based on agriculture, could be based on handicrafts, and could be based on other manufacturing industries, thereby creating a multiplier effect to grow services as well. Because none of these will grow in isolation. The concept itself is absolutely wonderful. And we also did try, I think about 100 odd hubs are still working. The first one we picked was somewhere in Nainital, close to Nainital. There's a lot of apples grown there. We said, let's see what you can do if you improve first the quality and yield of apples, then you train people to handle it better, then you process it better and make products which are as good as any in the world. That is essential, by the way. They must be as good as any in the world. You don't necessarily have to be an exporter to be globally competitive. We want India as a nation to be globally competitive, which is why it is important that all the young people not just get education like you're getting, but those who are not getting education also get the right kind of skills to take on vocations that they would like. I think you and all of us in this room are extremely fortunate that we are able to get the kind of education we can actually afford to do this in a nation which has 300 million people who don't get 2 square meals a day. That is where we need the innovation as well. But by the way, innovation is happening right now. We have a large number of examples. Companies like Coke and Pepsi are producing new products which are rich in iron and other vitamins, which they are now getting out to the rural areas. And not just to the rural areas, also to the urban poor. Organizations like the Jaipur Food. I think Saurabh just to give you some examples as well. So you need to make sure that your businesses are very, very efficient. You need to work on business models. And just before walking in, I was talking to Simon. And my belief is the same as Saurabh just mentioned. I think many new business models in the world will come from India, in countries like India. And if we can learn to work together within our own region with Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, we will build a trade bloc which would certainly have a salutary impact, a positive salutary impact on all of our economies and therefore on all of our peoples. This incidentally is a subject which cannot be addressed in 10 minutes. There are many, many different angles to this because our consumers are smart consumers, regardless of their ability to pay. They're informed consumers. So we have to be able to respect their likes and dislikes and address those both in our products and services and ensure that that we ourselves are smart about this. As I said, if life deals you a lemon, make lemonade. There's a new one, however. If life deals you a tomato, make Bloody Marys and also have fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. You made us realize that innovation is a key ingredient to success.
Now I request Swami Shatmanandaji to share his blessings.
Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityur Ma Amritangamaya, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, and from death to immortality. Om Peace, Peace, Peace. Distinguished guests on the dais, very enlightened guests in the audience, and the students of these two business schools under the JK banner. It's really a wonderful occasion to be with you this morning. I was not really familiar with this concept at the bottom of the pyramid, but then I just looked at it this morning and then last night. I feel that this is not just a business option, our Munjaji very beautifully touched it. It's a dire necessity in the context of our country today. Now, what is our so-called GDP? Someone said GDP is a grossly deceptive parameter. We can have a big GDP number which can come from a few billionaires and millions of people living below the poverty line, and that's exactly the situation in our country today. With our growth, only the gap between the rich and the poor seems to be widening, which is not a healthy sign at all. Our Munjaji was talking about also some of the movement. It's in a way very good some such thing happened because much of the energy, anger, etc. were given expression to in a very peaceful manner. Otherwise, probably we might also be witnessing something like Egypt, Syria, or some other place today in our country. So we need to take this issue very seriously. Unless our growth, our prosperity, etc. is inclusive, obviously we are going to have very, very difficult times to survive. So this bottom of the pyramid concept, if you really understand it and put it to proper kind of a destination, and then it will do very well for the entire country. Now even the growth of nations are measured quite differently all over the world, not just GDP alone, and the wellness index, happiness index, and so on. So we also have to think of something else, and that would come from industries, from managers who are oriented a little differently. They will not be just only looking at mere profits or their own gains, but they will have a vision, they will have a greater goal, and there will be a purpose in the very running of the industry and all the participants. And many people have done it successfully. I can give you a few examples in the short time that has been allotted to us. For example, if you read the life of the great Jamshedji Tata, all his life he built industries, he developed them with a different goal. Never for his own enjoyment or for his family, it was to create wealth for the nation. And the result is today we have a massive industry under the Tata banner where millions and millions of people are getting their livelihood. So all the development, all the growth, etc. he brought about was with a purpose, with a vision to create wealth for the nation as such. So that kind of a model. And even in a small way, if you look at what Professor Yunus did in Bangladesh, crores of Muslim women were never stirred out of the house. They became entrepreneurs through his microcredit scheme, and that we have also duplicated to a fair extent in India. So these type of business models, where they address the issues very differently, where they try to take into account the vast majority of the huge lot lying at the bottom of the pyramid. So through all that, definitely when so many people are involved, it's not only just their individual well-being or prosperity. Obviously, the growth of the nation also is addressed simultaneously. So, for that, as I said, we need to have managers with a different vision. So that's why all the youngsters here who are aspiring to be the future managers of the country, they come into the picture, they have a role to play. I was witnessing something very wonderful in one of the banks some nearly 35 years ago. I would like to share that small incident with you. He was the manager of perhaps the biggest bank of branch, the Central Bank of India in Calcutta. Even in 1977-78, he had about 900 or so employees. And those days, the rule was you get salary for coming to the office and overtime for doing your work. So at that time, this manager, who had risen from the ranks of apprenticeship to be the chief manager of the branch, I was amazed the way he was interacting with the entire staff. It was well beyond the office time. No one ever even mentioned about overtime. The whole staff was working so animatedly in such a participatory manner. They were all together. He had ordered for a huge quantity of the famous snack that's available in West Bengal. It's called muri, the puffed rice, and with some little this thing, and he was sharing it with all of them, and they were all working so joyfully. So because why we see so much of competition, so much of hatred, anger, jealousy, somehow trying to score over others. How to make my industry, my company more profitable at the expense of someone else or some other industry. All those kinds of negative feelings, thinking, etc., approaches, they stem from the idea of the limitedness of one's own personality or one's own individual self. So when we expand ourselves, think of a larger and larger dimension of our individual personality, then we understand life itself in a much larger perspective. We learn that unless we master this technique. The idea of servant leadership is very much associated with the idea of an understanding of an expanded personality of oneself. Just to think about it. The moment you think that, no, my vision, my life, my goal, my understanding of myself is not just a small little limited individual with a limited approach, with a limited career goal, the limited aspiration for money, wealth and power, but I am meant to do something much larger, much bigger. I am supposed to function, be understood and contribute in a bigger area, in a bigger way. Then your whole life dimension changes. You start functioning differently, and that is where the hope for our really taking advantage of the huge accumulation at the bottom of the pyramid in our country particularly lies. And I'm sure all of you will think about this. Maybe we can share this, talk in detail about it on a different occasion. Others are waiting. So I wish this conference all success. But at the same time I tell you, try to understand your life itself. Set a larger goal. Have a bigger vision about your individual personality, or your life of your goal, what you can do for yourself, for a larger community, society, country, and the humanity itself. And that is where your real success would come. That is where you will really find peace, prosperity, happiness, and that's why you will be contributors in making this country a much better place. Thank you very much.
Govindhari Singhania ji, Shri Saurabh Srivastava ji, Sudhir ji, Swami ji, Raghuveer ji, Dr. Vichadriya ji, distinguished members of the faculty, students, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by complimenting Govindhari ji and the Singhania family for their repeated, sustained and committed initiatives in the fields of education, support to India's cultural heritage, and the value system that has defined our country through the millennia. I am indeed delighted to be here this morning for a number of reasons. The first and foremost is the fact that I get an opportunity to humbly contribute to this very noble effort, to create awareness about the challenges of the future, the challenges that our nation faces, and to inspire young students who eventually must define the future of our great country. The second reason that gives me happiness is that my association with the Singhania family goes back many, many years. In a small, humble way, I've had the opportunity and the privilege to exchange notes and thoughts